multi-doctor stories don't come around too often, so it's always a treat when they do. And with the Giggle likely marking the final multi-doctor story for quite some time, now's the perfect time to do what we do best round here and rank things. I'm Ellie for Who Culture, here with every multi-doctor story ranked from worst to best. Number 10, Dimensions in Time. Now it is easy to feel sorry for the things that end up at the bottom of lists like this, but not this one. Dimensions in Time is bad, no sympathy. 4 years after Doctor Who was cancelled in 1989, the show made its rip-roaring return to the small screen in a crossover with the soap opera EastEnders. Rightio, the plot has got something to do with Rani trapping all of the doctors in Albert Square, but please don't ask me why, because the plot makes absolutely zero sense and I really can't give you an answer. While it's certainly fun that Doctors 3 through 7 all turned up for this Children in Need two-parter, alongside companions like Susan, the Brigadier, Romana and Leela, watching them interact with the Mitchell brothers and Pat Butcher is too brain-breaking and silly to be enjoyable. Dimensions in Time capped off a bleak 10 years for Doctor Who in questionable fashion, and goes a long way to explaining why it wasn't brought back properly for another 12 years. I'm also painfully aware that anyone who lives outside of the UK will have no idea what EastEnders is and how iconic those characters were. Number 9, The Two Doctors. While most multi-doctor stories were commissioned to mark some sort of special occasion, this one turned up halfway through season 22 completely at random. And it's a good thing it wasn't made for a big event because it would have spoiled the party. The Two Doctors pairs Colin Baker with Patrick Troughton as Six must investigate Two's apparent kidnapping by a genetically modified androgam and some Sontarans. Classic Who was made in a vastly different time and has a much slower pace than the modern show, but this one drags out painfully over 3 45-minute episodes, each one worse than the last. While it's always great to see Troughton, Baker is at his most unsavoury, constantly clashing with everybody and even murdering one of the villains with some cyanide. Combined with the dull and often idiotic nature of the story, The Two Doctors is firmly towards the bottom of the multi-doctor pile. Although, as you'll find out a bit later, this is the only story titled The X Number of Doctors to be accurately named, which does count for something. Number 8, Time Crash. With those first two out of the way, we have mostly good things to say about the rest of the list, starting with 2007's Time Crash. Now this one might only be 8 minutes long, but it's utterly delightful. Set between Martha Jones leaving the TARDIS and the Titanic starship crashing through its wall, Time Crash sees David Tennant's 10th Doctor come face to face with Peter Davison's 5th, thanks to some technobabble sci-fi stuff. While there is something of a plot regarding the Doctors working to uncouple their TARDISes, it's really a thinly veiled excuse for Tennant to fawn over the Doctor he grew up watching. 10 marvels at 5 when he's in front of him, complimenting his dress sense and general demeanour with all the childlike glee of the most dedicated fanboy. As he sends his past self on his way, 10 remarks, "You were my Doctor," which is just the sweetest thing ever. Also, a bit weird in retrospect, considering that Peter Davison is now his father-in-law. Its short length does keep it from getting higher up on the list, but Time Crash is a lovely reminder that the people who make Doctor Who love it just as much as those who watch it. Number 7, The Power of the Doctor. You like old doctors, do you? Well, have all the old doctors you can eat. The Power of the Doctor doesn't just give us Jodie Whittaker as 13 and the return of David Tennant as 14, but thanks to the Guardians of the Edge, we can add 1, 5, 6, 7 and 8 to the list. Chuck in a cameo from the Fugitive Doctor and that brings the total Doctor count up to 8, a record for in-person appearances. These parts of the episode are spectacular, but it's not all great. Even with an extended runtime, the Power of the Doctor is way too bloated. There's the Master's plan to kill the Doctor, the Daleks chilling in a volcano, an entire cyber conversion planet, Dan's exit, Ace and Tegan coming back, Kate Stewart and Unit, and some dancing around to Boney M. Oh, and this is also Jodie Whittaker's regeneration episode, in case you'd forgotten. Still, the Guardian stuff is really fun, mainly because Paul McGann somehow looks better in his costume now than he did back in 1996. And Ace and Tegan reuniting with their Doctors was just lovely. Number 6, The Five Doctors. The Five Doctors was a celebration of 20 years of time and space, and if we're being honest, should have been called The Four Doctors and some archive footage. William Hartnell had passed away by this point, so Richard Herndl was brought in to play his role. As for Tom Baker, he turned down the opportunity to appear in the special, so he was written out of the story and replaced by some unused clips from Sharda, and he was also replaced in the publicity photos by a waxwork model, which is incredible. The story, which features Doctor actors Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee and Peter Davison, cast the Time Lords into Gallifrey's much-feared Death Zone, where they must reach the tomb of Rassilon himself to escape. The Ainley Master also turns up to both help and hinder his nemesis, and there's a bit of Time Lord Council stuff too. The plot is fine, if a little stagnant in places, but the Five Doctors Doctors does a good job of bringing its remarkable number of protagonists together for a harmless slice of fan-servicey fun. Number 5. Twice Upon a Time. Twice Upon a Time had a lot to do. It was the 2017 Christmas special, Peter Capaldi's final episode, and the first time audiences met David Bradley in the guise of the first Doctor. The two Time Lords meet while attempting to stave off regeneration, inadvertently causing a big old time blip in the process. There's also a World War I soldier who's mysteriously turned up at the South Pole, the return from the grave of Bill Potts, sort of, some business with Rusty the Dalek, and a naked woman made of glass. Told you there was a lot going on. While it may be more overstuffed than a holiday turkey, there's still plenty to like. Bradley is a delight as the crotchety old man who's also the younger man in this situation. There are some beautiful ruminations on the Doctor's existence, and Capaldi's immaculately delivered final speech is one for the ages. Doctor, I let you go is as spine-tingling now as it was in 2017. Number 4. Fugitive of the Dun. Though the introduction of the mysterious fugitive Doctor didn't really go anywhere, things started off with a lot of promise. Joe Martin's incarnation debuted in Fugitive of the Dun, where the grumpy space rhinos descend on the city of Gloucester, and it's revealed that human tour guide Ruth is actually a Time Lord in hiding. And not just any old Time Lord, a badass version of the Doctor who wears cool coats, beats up Jadun, and likes to shoot people. Hell yeah! Upon regaining her memories, the fugitive Doctor confronts 13, only to find that neither one has any memory of being the other. A first for multi-Doctor stories. Fugitive of the Dun is a really intriguing episode, not only for how it slowly spins out the mystery of Ruth's identity, but for how it sets up so many fascinating possibilities for the future of the show. Were any of these possibilities explored during the rest of Chibnall's tenure? Well, no, not really, but we can't knock Fugitive of the Dun for setting things up in a really cool way, and Martin feels like she'd be a great Doctor if she was given a proper go at it. Number 3. The Giggle. Well, it's safe to say that nobody saw that coming. Well, unless you saw the leaks, but hopefully you didn't. Upon facing the toy maker atop Unit Tower in the final 60th anniversary special, the 14th Doctor is shot and presumably killed by his accent-changing foe. And just when everybody was teary-eyed and getting ready to say goodbye to David Tennant all over again, Russell T Davies played the ultimate bait and switch by having 14 bi-generate into 15. This means that, in the words of Newt Gunray, this is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them. 14 and 15 stand side by side, wardrobes split neatly in half, ready to take on the Toymaker in one final game. Though they're only together for a short time, these two Time Lords break new ground for Doctor Who, and their interactions are perfect. Ncuti Gatwa playing the older mentor role to David Tennant's tired soldier. Elsewhere, there's a brilliantly bonkers turn from Neil Patrick Harris, several thrilling set pieces, a killer musical number, and a satisfying ending that puts a neat bow on the past 60 years, with both eyes firmly on the future. Will having 2 Doctors running around cause massive headaches further down the line? Maybe, but for now, let's all just bask in the utter madness of the Giggle and be thankful that we didn't have to cry like it was 2010 all over again. Number 2. The Three Doctors. The Three Doctors was a celebration of Doctor Who's milestone 10th birthday, a drop in the ocean compared to where the show is now. And once again, the title is misleading, as there's only 2.5 Doctors present here. William Hartnell finally turns up as himself in one of these, but he was in very poor health by the time it was filmed. Instead of the major part originally envisioned for him, he appears via a video screen to give advice to Troughton and Pertwee, who unite to face an invasion of the universe from a dimension of antimatter. Behind all this nasty business is Omega, a Time Lord hero thought long dead, and it turns out he was just chilling in a different universe, biding his time and going slightly bonkers in the process. Omega is a stunning villain and one the show should really bring back, and seeing 2 and 3 interact is a lot of fun. In fact, this was the first time any of the Doctors have met their previous forms, making the Three Doctors a significant milestone in Doccy Who history. Dodgy 70s special effects and campy acting to one side, this one is a gem. And number 1, The Day of the Doctor. Of course. The most recent major celebration of Doctor Who prior to 2023 saw every single one of the Doctor's old personas come together to save their home planet for about 60 seconds. Most of the episode was helmed by just 3 Doctors, one of whom was a special super duper secret Doctor nobody had heard of before. The Day of the Doctor combined Matt Smith and David Tennant with the late great John Hurt in his one and only outing as the War Doctor. 10 and 11 have to team up to stop old Grumpy Chops from destroying the Time Lords and the Daleks before uniting to ensnare their home world in a pocket dimension safe and sound. Cue the most dramatic eyebrow reveal of all time. Though a bit convoluted in places, something that even Stephen Moffat has admitted, The Day of the Doctor is an appropriately grand commemoration of half a century of a funny little show about a flying portaloo. Plenty of all-timer moments moments, a few cameos here and there, and an amazing one-off performance from Mr. Hurt. Multi-Doctor stories don't get better than this. And there you have it, but we like to rank all sorts of things in Doctor Who, so why not check out our ranking of every TARDIS interior? In the meantime, I've been Ellie with Who Culture, and in the words of Riversong herself, goodbye, sweeties.